When it comes to concrete, we've got you covered. RowPaint.com offers custom concrete coating services for your garage, business, warehouse, and more. And we do it in one day. We are your complete concrete coatings solution.
This is Bronco Nation News Live. The best interviews, the most informed opinions, the latest breaking news, all from the top Boise State insiders. Now, here's four-time NSMA Idaho Sports Writer of the Year, BJ Rains, with another edition of Bronco Nation News Live.
Well, greetings, Boise State fans. A happy Tuesday to you here at Bronco Nation News Live, bronconationnews.com. Shout out to Colin Mitchell, who I guess for a couple of days I can call our intern here, but that was his final project. He made the new intro for us there, so shouts to Colin. Great job there. Great job all semester. And I guess I can let the cat out of the bag that even though the internship is over, we're not getting rid of Colin just yet. So we may be able to keep him on part-time here, at least till he finishes school. So looking forward to that. But it is Tuesday. So Jay Tust, sports director over at KTVB, is with us. One of our teams wearing our hats are doing a little better than the other right now. So we can decide if we want to talk about that or not. But Jay, happy Tuesday, man. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, Mariners are not doing good right now. We can't freaking score. So I don't know. Long summer, though, a week in a baseball season is relatively meaningless.
It does. If you go, 5-10 in April, looks a lot. It's a lot different if you go 5-10 in July and you kind of forget about it. It's a lot different when all the stats change. But yeah, maybe you and me should start a baseball podcast. Me and Prater can start a hockey podcast. Maybe we can branch out on Bronco Nation News here and see what happens. I'm sure tons of people would love to get our random thoughts on stuff. But excited to have you on, Jay, today as we continue our series of the 25 most important players to the Boise State football team in 2022. And as I said yesterday, excited about this because I got your input, I got Johnny's input, I got Prater's input. I didn't use Johnny's input, but I got Johnny's input, Prater's input, Bob Beeler's input, and made some changes. And the list looks a lot different than the original one I had. So it's kind of nice to have a collaborative effort here. And I guess in general, Jay, without divulging any of the top names, this is your first appearance since we're starting the series here. What's just your general take on the list we came up with, some of the names that didn't make the list, and it's you look at this team in 2022, there's going to be a lot of important guys and some guys that maybe are more important than others might be thinking of going into the season.
Yeah. I just think, as we break this down and go through it, I think that edge position is really going to be one formerly known as stud. I'm glad they actually changed the name of it to edge because I can't tell you how many emails we get about why we were calling Boise State football players studs.
Yep.
But I think there's just the development at that position is going to be vital. And I know, there are guys like Dimitri Washington that are listed there right now. He's been listed there for a while, hasn't necessarily, seemed to be able to maximize his potential at that decision. Now, there was an injury there that obviously derailed a little bit of that, but they're going to need more than him. A guy like George Tarlis and even some of the younger guys to really come along there and provide a punch at that position, in my opinion. But outside of that, a lot of the names and the order is going to make a lot of sense as we get through the next 5 weeks.
Now, one guy that I already mentioned yesterday that did not make the list was Isaiah Banya. And I know that was a little, I don't know if point of contention is the right word, but that was one of your points that you brought up. And it was a fair criticism that somebody like that needed to be on the list. 6 sacks last year, I believe, and obviously is coming off a strong year, but he just, again, we only have 25. There was probably 32, 33 guys if we wanted to extend the list out. So he was obviously very close. I kind of took into account some of the, depth chart, some of the, losses at key positions. So again, it's not best. In my opinion, it's most important. But, once I look at the list again, I probably could argue a couple of these guys that we're going to talk about this week, at the bottom of the list that you could have replaced Isaiah Banya with. But regardless, he's going to be an important player this year.
Yeah, Scott Matlock led the team last year with 7 sacks.
Who is on the list? I can promise you that.
Isaiah was right behind him with 6 sacks. I think 3 of those came in one game that he had a really big effort. So, I just that position is just going to be so important for this team and for this defense, in my opinion. Like, they're really experienced in the secondary. It seems like they have more depth on the line. They have some experience, but need to grow at linebacker. But I just focus on that edge position because when this Boise State defense has been different, they've had a guy there that's been really, really dynamic. And you go back to like the Curtis Weaver days, which weren't that long ago, BJ. But you always heard Spencer Danielson say if they only sent one, if they tried to block Curtis one-on-one, they were going to lose. And so most of the game that meant sending 2 and sometimes even 3 guys towards Curtis, which would free up guys on the other side of the offense or of the other defensive line. So that edge position and having a dynamic guy there can really make this defense something different.
All right, number 25 yesterday that Johnny and I unveiled Tyler Crowe, and I wanted to get your thoughts on Tyler Crowe before we get to number 24 because obviously a local kid, cool story, started as a walk-on. We had a chance to get him on the show yesterday. Just a fun-loving guy and obviously the TikTok star and all that stuff. But for me, I was kind of bullish on including him on this list. I know some others were kind of, as you mentioned, guys like Isaiah Banya, you could have argued, over a third-string running back, so to speak. But for me, his impact on special teams, for me, George Chilani's inability the last 2 seasons to play a full 12-game schedule, and the fact that you lose, Cyrus Abibi-Likio and Andrew Van Buren, and the only other running back theoretically ahead of, on the depth chart ahead of Tyler Crowe is a true freshman that hasn't rushed the ball for a snap, for this team, and Ashton Genty. So for me, I just feel like at some point in this season, Tyler Crowe is going to have a big role, and especially if you throw him in as the short yardage guy potentially, because he always seems to fall forward and pick up yards. I think there might be some big carries this year where Tyler Crowe gets called. And so what'd you think of him being at 25?
Yeah, top 25, you probably could have made a case for a couple other names to reserve that spot. But the one thing I like about Tyler is I'll go beyond stats with him. He's kind of just that all-heart guy. I mean, there are a few guys – I know there are guys in that football facility over there that just love the game. But I can tell you, man, like Tyler Crowe's passion for the game is just something else. I think he loves it. He loves contact. He doesn't shy away from that stuff. It's what's fueled him. He was an underdog at Skyview. I covered the kid in high school, and I just remember him taking souls out there. In all honesty, I remember, he'd get into the fourth quarter and he'd have 10 tackles on defense, and he's over rushing for 2 bills on offense. And guys at the end of the game, they didn't want to try to tackle him, and he just kept going. It only made him stronger. So he's just kind of that all heart guy that always seems to exceed whatever expectations that somebody wants to place on him. And so those are the types of guys that also made Boise State what Boise State is at one point in time, I think. The local guys that were the underdogs that set a good example and just played really, really hard.
Well, again, Tyler Crowe's number 25, and this is just to show either A, how bad my list is or how good some of this year's team is. Guys that did not make the list include Divine Obasheri, Herbert Gums, Tyreek LaBeouf, Ben Dooley, Garrett Curran, Tyneil Hopper, Billy Bowens, Austin Bolt. When you hear that, and then you could throw Nohe Canio in there as well. Those guys didn't crack the top 25. And then Tyler Crowe's 25. So the rest of the list is either, again, horrible on my part or this team's got some talent, Jay.
I'd rather joke and just say it's horrible on your part.
I already had somebody on our Facebook page yesterday when we posted it saying, well, whose idea was this? This is going to create tension in the locker room.
These lists exist all over the country.
It's the summer, and it's the summer, and we're trying to find stuff to do. And I've done this list at my previous spot for like 5 years. It's just something to talk about, something fun. And I'm sure the first game, one of the guys not on my list will have 3 sacks and be the star of the game, and Crowe won't even get a carry in the first game. But that's just how it goes.
You talk about a guy like Tyreek LaBeouf too. That dude, he started the season opener last year, and he had a historic season opener last year. Had 2 picks. One of them he housed 100 yards or whatever it was. And so
I just don't know. I can't pencil him in for a starting spot this
I agree.
year.
Yeah,
So,
no, I hear you on that. I hear you on that. I'm just saying especially the depth and talent at that position. That's something else to talk about at some point in time this summer, because Tyreek LaBeouf, as was the case last year, would start on a lot of Boise State defenses, but this year's probably going to be fighting for playing time.
Well, we'll have time for that, because right after we do our 25 most important players, we're going into our 25 biggest questions. So we will have a question. We will have a question about the who's going to start at corner, I guess, and kind of go into that position there. So we'll get to 24. Yep. Number 24 in just a second. But first, want to tell you, transportation compliance service. 1,000 people a day are getting into that trucking industry. It's a booming, industry right now with the pandemic. So if you're looking for a fresh start, a career change, they can help you get all the permits, things you need to get out there towing that first load. Check them out, transcomservice.com. I'm actually heading over this afternoon to see Dr. Minor over at Boise Dentistry Co. I will be there today. So BoiseDentistryCo.com. Dr. Chris Minor there. Those are my kids smiling on the screen there. So great, friendly staff. They do an excellent job. And they got locations all across the Treasure Valley. So if you're looking for a new dentist for your full family, some do kids, some adults, well, they do it all. So check them out, BoiseDentistryCo.com. And United Commercial Insurance, they can write business policies in 44 states around the country. One of our loyal listeners, Rudy Jay, emailed me yesterday that he's working with Brandon over at UCI, and so we've made a connection there. If you own a business and you'd like me to help make the connection, you can email me, rains@bronconationnews.com, for any of our great sponsors, and I'll make the personal connection there for you. But United Commercial Insurance, making business insurance easy. And again, you may think you have good business insurance, but all the different liability and workers' comp, all that stuff, check them out, UnitedCommercialInsurance.com. Ask for Brandon, or like I said, for any of our great sponsors, just reach out to me and I can help you make that connection. Jay, by the way, we're only 3 weeks from Friday till the golf tournament. Have you had a chance to sneak out to the range yet?
No, not at all. I'm probably going to come in cold and just hope for the best.
You know what? If in the next 3 weeks, I may be able to slip you a free round of Timberstone. Maybe you can get out there and warm up a little bit.
Okay.
Because the longest drive, your team may need your help for the longest drive competition. But we do only have five. We've only got 5 or 6 foursomes left. We're getting close to selling this thing out. So if you're interested in playing, now's the time. You can sign up as an individual, or you can sign up as a foursome. And again, we're down to the last, I think, 6 foursomes here before this thing sells out. So email me, Rains, RAINS, at BroncoNationNews.com, Rains@BroncoNationNews.com, or check out BroncoNationNews.com. Click on the golf tournament tab. This thing is going to be a lot of fun. You get breakfast included. You get lunch included. You get free drinks on the course. You get to mingle with Jay and Mike Prater and some of the basketball coaches, the golf coaches. Jay, I think Coach Schultz is even going to be out there. He's confirmed. So we got, unless, I told him the College World Series is going on at that time. He may still be busy, actually, but hopefully that's the case. But we're working to have some of the coaches out there, and going to be a lot of fun. Matt Boucher is going to be out there. Nick Duncan is playing. Brian King. Reggie Larry's coming in. Ryan Lundgren's coming in from over at CSI. It's going to be a lot of fun to see folks out there, and looking forward to the tournament. And we got our sponsors are giving away some great swag. You get a free golf towel, you get some free golf balls, all kinds of stuff. So again, don't wait. Only 5 or 6 foursomes left, and you can register today at BroncoNationNews.com and click on the golf tournament tab. You can email me as well, Rains@BroncoNationNews.com. Derek says he would have had Tyreek LaBeouf in for sure. Talented enough they could find a spot for him to start, whether it's cornerback or nickel. And that is going to be we'll get to that, I guess, when we get to the corners, Jay. But you've got Canijo, you've got LaBeouf, you've got Biggers, you've got Markel Reed, you've got Jared Reed. I mean, that competition at corner, there's like 5 or 6 guys. So I picked 2 kind of who I projected would be the starters, and they're the ones that made the top 25. But you certainly can make an argument, and it certainly wouldn't shock us if somebody like LaBeouf ends up starting.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. That position's loaded. I mean, it might be one of, if not the deepest position on the team in terms of competition, talent. That'll be an awesome position battle. And, kind of like we found out last year, that's a case, knock on wood, or that's a position, knock on wood, that if they have to, battle a couple injuries or something like that, they might be okay there. Probably better than any other position.
Let's get to number 24, today's unveiling. There will be a story up at BroncoNationNews.com every day to accompany the unveiling of this. And this is another one, Jay, where I am, we as a group, but we're projecting a starter at this position, but both guys, whoever it is, ends up being the guy of importance. We're going with James Ferguson Reynolds, the freshman punter from Australia. Based on some conversations I've had that others have had, it sounds like he is the slight leader right now over Gavin Whale to be the starting punter next season. And you maybe could argue a Banya or somebody like that is more important than the punter. But when you're having to replace a multi-year starter, and I know Joe Velasquez, Jay, at times was a little inconsistent, but he, it's a luxury to have a multi-year starter back there, a veteran that knows what he's doing. And now you come in with either way, an inexperienced Gavin Whale or a freshman from Australia in James Ferguson Reynolds. I don't think James Ferguson Reynolds comes over all the way from Australia to Boise State if he doesn't have an idea that he might have a good chance at winning this job. I don't think Boise State goes to the effort of recruiting him all the way from Australia if they don't think he has a decent chance of winning this job. So I give the slight edge over Gavin Whale to him. But either way, that group, whoever the punter is, we have at number 24 on our list.
Yeah, no, I think that he's a really intriguing prospect. I mean, just kind of like everything you said right there. His bag of tricks, bag of tools, whatever you want to say, it is deeper and more diverse than most punters. I would have to say. So it's going to be fun to watch him. I know that's kind of weird to say about a punter, but it is going to be fun to watch him and see what he can do because the ceiling is very high on him and what he can offer this football team, especially at that position.
What do you make, though, just in general of losing multi-year starter and Joel Velasquez and just in general going from somebody with a lot of experience to either Ferguson Reynolds or Whale who don't have as much experience?
Yeah, I mean, no offense to Joel, and I think that he got – he was able to get a lot more consistency this past season, but through most of his career, the consistency was a little bit of an issue. So that might be a case where they can, if not get better, they might be able to just, turn it over and move forward. You can't assume it necessarily, but I do think it's a position that Boise State has the ability over the next couple of years to grow and get more consistent at. I think that's definitely fair to say.
Perry says we aren't going to need a punter this year.
Oh, boom, Perry.
I think Tim Plow, maybe Perry is Tim Plow's burner account. We figured it out. Derek chiming in, love me an impact punter. And I know, the punter's not the sexy position. Like I said, you could argue, a sack master off the edge or somebody's more important, Jay, but being able to pin teams deep and being able to do some things at the punting position. I mean, that is for a winning football team that wants to win the league, I think having a solid punter is an important part.
I mean, ask yourself this: where would San Diego State be without Matt Ariza last year? I mean, that guy was incredible at flipping the field with 80-yard punts at times. And I'm not saying that's what you should expect out of this kid, but Ariza was a huge part of San Diego State's success last year. And even look at the NFL draft, man. I mean, there were a handful of punters taken once again this year. So NFL teams clearly covet the ability not just to flip field position, but also pin opponents deep. And we're going to see if Boise State has unearthed that type of prospect out of Australia and brought him here to Boise.
Ferguson Reynolds Jay was the number 10 ranked punter in the 2022 class, according to 247sports.com. He's a 6'2", 185-pounder, Geelong, Australia. He went to the Pro Kick Academy. He played Australian rules football growing up, played at the different level there. Didn't really focus on American football and punting until 2020. But I mentioned Pro Kick Australia. It's kind of an academy that's designed to help put these guys into college in the NFL. And you look at the list, there's the top 10 punters in the 247 rankings. 8 of them, Jay, came from the 8 of the 10 came from this Pro Kick Australia. So, he's a guy that never, he said he had been to America and done some tours and stuff. We're going to hear from him in a second. But he's a little bit of a wild card, like you said, because of the different things he can do. But I know there was a practice there. You were there that day, I think, where Andy Avalos came over and kind of just was BSing with us. And I'm not even sure if we're supposed to say this, but we were kind of just talking about guys that were doing well and things. And I think I might have said, how about Ferguson Reynolds, and he's kind of like, yeah. Like he kind of gave like, yeah, he's impressing. And we didn't see him much in the spring game. I don't think they had him do any of those kind of, rugby style kicks if they want to put anything on tape for Oregon State. But, he got here in January and did have the 15 spring practices, which I think was a big help for him as well.
Yeah, it's funny. You mentioned the fact that, the 10th ranked punter by 2-4 Sports, and I think they do a great job, by the way. But if he was playing American, on American soil, I bet you that he probably would have been even higher because he would have had even more exposure, to the American game. And so, he'll be a fun one. And I think if anything too, it's always fun to see. It always adds a little extra juice, energy. Fans always want to know who like that true freshman is that's going to come in and contribute. And outside of Ashton Genty, you might be looking at the punter position where that happens.
Derek Morales saying, don't forget about Ryan Stonehouse for
right.
CSU.
Great point, Derek. Yeah, Ryan Stonehouse was incredible there. Avery Williams absolutely rocked that dude's world a couple of times. Frustrated him more so than any other punt returner, I think. But, yeah, that's another great example. Ryan Stonehouse was huge for Colorado State over the last few years.
No sarcasm. Love a solid punter, Matt. Reza won games last year for them. Let's hear briefly, back in December before he signed with Boise State, Tyler Rasa and I had a chance to interview James Ferguson. We obviously couldn't get him on live here since he's a freshman now that he's enrolled, but here's a couple minutes of how he ended up at Boise State, and then he talks about the rugby style. And then, Jay, I want to ask you kind of about the uniqueness of Boise State now joining the Australian punter craze and seeing some of those rollouts. But here's a little bit for folks to get to know James Ferguson Reynolds, the new Boise State punter who we project to be the starter this year at number 24. Here he is talking about how he ended up at Boise State.
Yeah, it was a really fun process. It mostly came from Coach Collins, and that was the first point of contact I had back in July. And we sort of went through a few meetings and went through Boise State as a whole and through a city and the program that's run down there. And yeah, just fell in love with it instantly. And just loved the facilities and everyone around, made some good connections straight away. And all the coaches really welcomed me pretty well. I just, the city itself, not only the football culture and everything about Boise, I loved it from day dot. And really excited to get over and start training. And the recruiting process was done over a couple of months before committing, and just the connections I made, and I've spoke to a few of the boys on the special teams already, and they sound really excited to have me over and really keen to get stuck into it. So the transition over has been really awesome so far, and loved every minute of it.
How did you first get in touch with Boise State? Is there some area you can put your name out there and coaches can contact you, or how did you find out that Boise State was interested, or what was the connection there, and what other schools also were you looking at before you picked Boise State?
Yeah, so as you mentioned before, I'm a product of Pro Kick Australia, and their system works a bit different to the normal system that high school athletes come over through over in America, and we sort of we get trained up here, and once we're at that level, that college football level, we put film together and send over to our coaches, and they sort of send it out to other schools, and if they're interested in contacting us and having a meeting and things like that, we find out then on the spot who that school is. We don't really go through multiple schools and have an option. I suppose we our coaches do a really good job of fitting us into the right school that suits us, and whether that be academically and punting wise, we make sure that the school fits us really well and make sure that they're happy with our product too. So it was only Boise for me, so absolutely loved it.
So when you go through training with Pro Kick Australia, one, how long have you been training with them? And then two, kind of go over the different sort of punts that you're practicing with Pro Kick Australia, because people only know the American style where you're going to end over end instead of you're going you have your Aussie style, your banana, your pineapples, everything like that. So kind of go over a little bit of that, just how long you've been training, and then the different things that, the different tools you have to train with.
Yeah, cool. So I started Pro Kick earlier this year in January. I guess it's a bit different. We grew up playing it's what's called AFL over here, so Australian rules football. And I've grown up kicking a ball since I was 2, since I was been able to walk. Australians, I guess that's why it's becoming a very popular thing at the moment. We grew up kicking a ball, and you guys grow up throwing the ball. So I guess that skill kind of comes naturally for all us Aussies, and I think that's something I pride myself on is having some pretty good skills with the ball and being able to move that ball around in different various types of kicks. Coach Collins really liked my direction and what we call a drop punt and what you guys call a rugby punt. So end over end, spinning backwards. It's a really good, pretty smart kick to use in play and being able to bounce back and you can move the ball around pretty well and get a good grip and handle over that. And I think I pride myself on having good placement. So pinning teams deep and wide will be my natural attribute, I reckon. And just perfecting that art at the moment is the main thing before I come over and really excelling in that. But the main thing I sort of we went over is I'm mostly going to be rolling out by the sounds of it. He wants me moving out of that pocket, and that's something that comes from my Australian rules football background, is being able to dodge and get out of the way of opponents while kicking the ball. So that's a very natural part of our game. If I see pressure coming forward and I know how to get rid of that ball really quickly. So I have really good awareness of the players around me and where pressure is and when contact is coming. So, I think I'll be pretty dangerous rolling out on the move and punting. Left or right, I think going across field is another thing we're going to look at, which is a pretty dangerous weapon that I've got behind me. So, just more rollouts, getting out of that pocket and becoming more of a dangerous target.
Couple things there, Jay. First of all, I thought it was unique where there's not much of a recruiting process. He said he didn't have a lot of choices, that the Pro Kick Academy kind of partners them and finds them the right fit, and then you start talking, but that's kind of it. So it wasn't like he had 5 schools that he was thinking about. His coaches said, we think Boise State's the best fit for you, and he said, okay, let's do it. Second of all, mentioned Coach Collins a lot there, who he signed with and is no longer there. Coach Collins, takes the job at Penn State, a step up for him. Certainly nobody, that happened pretty quickly, and nobody's faulting Coach Collins at all for that. But for a guy to come all the way from Australia, by the way, James's parents are avid listeners of this. They during the spring game, I remember the pre and post game show on the spring game, they were chiming in, watching from Australia. So if they're watching, we appreciate it. But and then the style of kicks too, I thought was an interesting thing, Jay, where he's talking about the rollouts and the rugby style. We've seen that before, where the guy rolls out and it looks like he's going to take off, and then he finally kicks it from on the run. I mean, it's going to be a new experience for Boise State fans watching the punts this year.
Yeah, all that stuff is going to be more that opponents have to worry about and prepare for. And I know all of it seems like maybe it's just simple because it's punting, but it's not. And if you don't do it right, if you don't handle his style right, you're going to be backed up all night long in terms of field position and stuff like that. So, I just think that it's going to be fun to see, man, because we still, as much as we know about him, we don't know a ton about him. And to see him out there on game day, can he handle the nerves? Can he handle the atmosphere? Maybe it makes him better. I don't really know, but it's certainly going to be a little bit of a new world for him. And it could be a place where this team grows this season, in my opinion.
And I mentioned Coach Collins being gone. So we kind of wrap this up here. What do you make just in general of special teams this year? And to let the cat out of the bag, Jonah Dalmas is on the list. He'll be a little further down in the series. But in terms of special teams, and again, it may be Ferguson Reynolds, it may be Whale, but we're going with Ferguson Reynolds. But it's not going to shock me if it's Whale. But special teams, new coach this year, the new way they're going to divvy that up. I mean, that is a storyline going into the season. Yeah,
we can look at what Demas did last year, and Dalmas. Gosh, I think Devin Demas. Jeez, Jonah Dalmas did last year, and that kid was incredible, dude. 26 to 28 field goals. Not only did he have volume, but he had accuracy. I think the thing that's going to be interesting for Jonah moving forward is his success won't necessarily even just be up to his foot. I go back to Tyler Ross's career here, right? Tyler's junior year, I think he made 24 field goals or something, which was a school record. somewhere in that range. And then the following year, he just didn't get much opportunity, right? And so it makes it look like he had a down year, but it was simply opportunity. The team was better at scoring touchdowns in the red zone. And so it'll be interesting to see what happens there. But either way, man, Boise State has a huge weapon with Jonah Dalmas returning. Not just one of the best kickers in the Mountain West, but one of the best kickers in the country. A guy that's going to be on, the Luke Groza preseason watch list. He'll likely compete for being a finalist at the end of the year with that thing. Punt returner, funny enough, I mean, Boise State has an all Mountain West punt returner in Steph Cobb's coming back this next season, but he only returned one punt last year. So he housed at 81 yards against UTEP, but he only had one punt return last year. And I think that Shaq handled a lot of that, those responsibilities. You felt awesome with him back, returning punts. I still think that, they'll push for competition in terms of punt returner this year. But when it comes to kicker, man, Boise State is in as good a spot as they've been in a long, long time.
Well, shout out Ridley's Family Markets, the Blue and Orange Store, Lithia Ford of Boise, ICCU, all of our great sponsors. We appreciate them for their support. We're rolling along here. We'll have number 23 on tomorrow's list. Coach Potter also going to join me tomorrow, by the way, the Boise State golf team. Jay, the golf team's in, the softball team's rolling. Some of the non-football basketball sports are doing pretty good right now.
Yeah, a lot of cool stories. Golf going back to the NCAA championships for the second straight year, something they've never done before. It was really funny. They felt like they were a shoo-in, but they had to wait till the very end of the selection show last week in order to hear their name announced, which tested their nerve, but they got in. It'll be cool to see. They got to have a top 5 finish in order to advance to the championships, or the finals, that is. So we'll see if they can get it done, and that starts in just a few days here. And then the softball team is absolutely rolling. 9 straight wins. They are such a complete team, whether it comes to pitching, defense, hitting. I wouldn't want to play them right now. And if they can go get 3 at Colorado State this weekend, they would tie the program record with 40 wins on the season. And it would give them a great chance, or at least a chance, to get into the NCAA tournament themselves.
Well, I know Coach is a big viewer of the show. If they can go sweep them, let's get them on next Tuesday maybe and talk about that and see what we can do there. But yeah, Coach Dan Potter will join me tomorrow to preview that. We'll get to number 23 on the list as well. And we'll start our series looking at the opponents on the Boise State football schedule. I'll take a look at Oregon State tomorrow as well. Full show planned for you. So appreciate it, Jay, as always. And we'll talk to you on Friday.
Sounds good, bud.
There's Jay Tust. I'm BJ Rains. Appreciate it. You can check him out, KTVB, KTVB.com. Him and Will Hall do a great job there. And we'll talk to you later. Bronco Nation News